Greetings, Ben Murray here with another edition of SaaS Metrics School. Today, talking professional services within SaaS. What exactly is PS and what role does it play within our organization? Well, it plays an important role, even though we kind of sometimes joke that professional services revenue doesn't matter, but the function is so important. And services revenue can provide nice margin and cash flow to your SaaS business. So, first, what is professional services? Well, I define it as the setup, configuration, and training of your customers. And this can range from a 1 hour onboarding and training potentially to a 12-month implementation of your software where you're configuring the software, setting it up, training your client on the use of your software. So it just depends on the complexity of your product. Is it more self service SaaS where there's no onboarding potentially, or light onboarding and training to all the way up to that enterprise product that takes a lot of training, configuration, and setup? So, professional services provides revenue typically to our SaaS company, especially with those longer implementations. We charge for that onboarding. But for those lighter onboardings, we may not charge for that. It could be free, but we still have the expense. And it's really important to track the expense associated with onboarding, even though you're not charging. So, again, setup, training, configuration of your customers on your product. And where do we code services expense? Well, we code this to cost of goods sold or cost of revenue, and it's its own distinct cost center within the COGS area. So we can track revenue versus the expense. And I run professional services like its own little organization or like a business unit where we have revenue that directly offsets the service expense. So we can calculate the services margin and understand the margin and the cash flow that's providing to our SaaS business. So we're coding up the COGS, definitely a cost of revenue or COGS and not an OpEx expense. So, a couple important concepts or terms associated with professional services. I'll cover these in more detail in a later episode. Backlog and utilization, two very important concepts within our professional services org to track those metrics. And it's really easy to justify new headcount based on backlog, based on utilization. So, I'll cover that in future episodes. So, professional services, it's important to get this correctly configured on our SaaS P&L so we can track the revenue, we can track the expense, we can track the margins, we can track the projects and the activity and the hours associated with onboarding and training our customers. So a little bit about professional services revenue today. Thanks.